So I just want to start to explain a little bit about the new fermentations which we have done, which started 3 years ago. But first, a little bit of a history. What we're doing now was just 10 years ago considered as a defect, and all these coffees which we are doing now, the new fermentation techniques, are in one way 10 years ago considered as a bad fermentation. So it's really nice to see that we have got that into a more controlled atmosphere, because in old days, just 10 years ago, it was not that controlled, that atmosphere and the conditions that it was fermented on. So 3 years ago we started a process adding Geisha nutrients into a Caturra variety. So it was soaked in a fermented tank, a closed tank, for 24 hours and 48 hours. And it was in an environment where it was 19 degrees. So what we actually did discover was that the pH value actually decreased over certain days, and you also had the sugar content going from 25% down to almost 10% bricks content. So what did this actually meant for the coffee that we were going to look upon when we want to roast and we want to present the best of all the coffees? Well, I think in my vision, or like my mission, that is to try to present different varieties and different aspects of coffee. So we actually had to take different samples of different varieties. So here we have the Geisha variety. Was last year it was picked and dried, and then left with the skin for this year to taste. So that's a different, way of fermenting or keeping the skin. We have here the San Isidro variety, which is when you actually taste the berries, it is very almost like rotten, but it's also a little bit earthy, but at the same time it's really, really, really sweet. And then we have here the natural Typica variety, which is known as being very long aftertaste and sweet, but it has a distinct, winery note. And here we have the Sarchi variety, which have been also through a long fermentation in a closed tank. And at the very end here on the table we have a new technique, which is actually a double fermentation. So you ferment the coffee first, you dry it, and then you ferment it again. So these are all new methods. And what are the goal with these methods? It's not necessary to have the coffee tasting sour. What I am looking for in my coffee is to have a balance still in the coffee, so you're still able to taste the varietal of the coffee, the Arabica, the sort, the varietal, and the soil where it's grown in. So the Geisha for me is very clear, is very sweet. You have a lot of elderflower in the cup, and San Isidro is known for its papaya, mango, and sweetness, caramel, and also in this cup you find a little bit earthy flavors. So this is ideal for making wine coffee. Then you have the Typica variety, which are very, very smooth, very delicate, long aftertaste. But in that cup profile which we have here, it's really, really like raisins, prunes, and also elderflower. Then we have the Sarchi variety, which is extremely nice. It reminds me of an Ethiopian coffee from the Guji area. It's so delicate in the flowers, and the fruitiness is extremely pleasant. And at the very end here, it's really, really nice with the double fermentation, where you have this extremely nice body, really complex coffee, which is very nice bodied. So what is equal for these coffees here is that the pH value is really low, and also the sugar content is also low, but the sweetness in the coffee is extremely nice. And for me, it's really a nice presentation of what you can do with coffees. If you look at the colors, it's really amazing, and look at the viscosity as well. It's extremely smooth. Here, the color is actually, it looks like a mud, and here it's very clean. But when you smell the liquid, which I did, just adding sugar, boil it up with a little bit of water, it's really enjoyable to drink. So my objective with all these different ferment methods, which started 3 years ago, is actually to have a wide range of coffees presenting in the restaurant business, where you can use it as a coffee wine, as an aperitif, or you can actually have the possibility of tasting different varieties made on a small scale. What coffee also can be used for. You know, this skin here, just 10 years ago, it was, maybe 12 years ago, it was just used to fertilize the soil with. Nowadays it's an important factor of the way that we process our coffee, but also the aftermath when you want to make something where we don't use hot water, we grind. We have a setup of making a drip coffee, but now we can actually make a liquid which is so similar to what you actually drink in a black, not a black coffee, but you drink as a drip coffee, where you have all the flavors present in a cold condition, which is for me really nice and enjoyable. So coffee for me is just not something you add hot water, you have a filter, and then you think, oh, that's how coffee is. No, it's really so complex, and there's so many different ways of looking at coffee, and I think this is just the birthmark of talking about how to use different fermenting methods. And as I mentioned before, we don't have to go that long back, where I still remember in 2011 when I trained the Italian barista champion Francesco Sanabo, and we used the natural coffee, and one of the judges, he put me aside and said, "Oh, Søren, I think this coffee is something wrong. It's a little bit over fermented." And no, it's a natural coffee and it has to taste like this. And now when I look at this now, wow, it seems so many years ago, but it's not more than actually 12 years ago. So I hope that you will follow me on my web, because when I take these items here at home, you will be able to see that in the upcoming summer, and I hope that you will join me to taste all these very nice coffees. So thank you for participating.